Yes, hello children. Welcome yet for that's another lesson. I'm your teacher, Nabo Richard. We're in our science lesson. So let's get organized for the lesson and start off. Of course, as usual, we shall start by switching off those gadgets you've been using, put them off. And today we shall look at something else which is very interesting. Remember, we are still looking at the plants, flowering plants. We shall look at the structures and the function of the parts of the flowering plants. But before we look at that, remember last time I left you with a very simple activity. Can you first of all look at the possible answers for that simple activity I left with? I left with only 3 numbers, which I think all of you passed. So I want you to be very serious students so that we can work very hard and go to the next class. So the questions are here, you can see them. So what are flowering plants? We said the flowering plants are plants that bear flowers. Hope you passed that one. Question number 2, to which group of flowering plant is maize plants? Remember I told that flowering plants are grouped into 2. They can be monocotyledonous or dicotyledonous. So maize is under the monocotyledonous plants. Let me hope you also pass that one. The last question left you with is why is the bean plant referred to as a dicotyledonous plants? We said dicotyledonous plants are those plants whose seeds have got 2 cotyledons. Very simple activity. So if you got all the 3, that's wonderful. And give yourself a very good comment like great and so on. So my children, as I've already mentioned that today we are going to look at the structure of a flowering plant. I know you have already seen this before, but now we want to remind ourselves. Do you know the parts of these plants, this flowering plant? Do you know what each part does? So that's what we are going to be looking at basically. Probably we shall go slightly more than what you saw in P4 and P3. So in this lesson here, I want you to, by the end of the lesson, to have known the parts of the flowering plant. At least 10 parts must be on your fingertip. You being as a semi-candidate, you must have at least 10 parts. 2, you must be knowing the function of each of those parts we are going to be looking at. Good. So our first question is, can you help me and name for me any 4 parts? You are going to write for me on your notebook there. Any 4 parts that make up a flowering plant. Very fast, within something like 10 seconds. 8 seconds to 9, 10. Let's check with what we have here. Remember last time I told you the flowering plant divided into 2 main systems. Let's first of all remind ourselves. The 2 systems are, we have the shoot system and the root system. And the shoot system, we say this is the part of the plant which grows above the ground. And it has got several parts. Any part above the ground forms the shoot system. You know you have plants around there. You have already written the parts. What are the parts that make up the system? We have the stem, we have the leaves, we have the axillary bud, we have the terminal buds, we have the fruits, we have the flowers, we have the internodes. If you could have mentioned the end of that, you can also give yourself a tick. Then when you also have the other part is the root system. The root system, we say this is the part of the plant that grows below the ground level. And the root system comprises of the parts like the roots, the tap roots or the fibrous roots. We have the root hairs, we have the root cap, we have the lateral roots. So if you got any of that, give yourself a very good. I know you passed them. Now, we are going to be looking at the structure of a plant. What does our plant look like? Where do we find each of those parts and so on? So let's have a look at my part here. This is my flower here, my plant rather. It has got the 2 systems, the shoot system, which is above the ground, and the root system, which is below the ground. So as you can see, there are very many parts, and probably even others have left them out. We are going to be reading those parts as you can see. We have the top part there. It's called the terminal bud. By the way, there's also another bud we call the flower bud. I'll be teaching that one later on. So you have the terminal buds. That terminal bud, we are going to see what it does. Then we have the flowers. Of course, I know you love flowers so much. The flowers can be of different colors. They can be white, they can be yellow, they can be blue, and so on. Then we have the stem over there. Hope you're seeing the stem. We have the leaves. So there are several leaves on a plant. Then we have another bud here, which is between the leaf and the stem. That bud is what we call the axillary bud. And the angle between that leaf and the stem is called the axial. That's why the bud is called the axillary bud. Now, mind about the spelling, children. Then we have got the part here called the internode. But before the internode, we have part called the node. Now, this node is the point on which the leaf joins the stem. So the distance between 2 nodes is what we call the internode. Then when we go to the root system here, we can see the roots. We have the main root, we can call it the primary root. Then we have got other small roots that grow from it, which we call the root hairs. But also there's also another part we have left out here, which is called the root hairs. So basically this is our simple structure of a flowering plant, having all those parts. I know you could have seen it in your previous class, that is P4 probably. So this is what it looks like. Just remind ourselves of the parts. So you must be knowing at least 7 or 10 of these parts here on your fingertips and where they are found. If you uproot one flowering plant out there in the environment, in your garden, can you be able to see all these parts here? And I want you to do that. I will be able to see that. Now, we are going to see what each of these parts do. That's going to be our next session here. The function of each part of the flowering plant. So what's the work of the stem? What's the work of the terminal bud? What's the work of the axillary bud? What about the roots? What about the flowers? What do they do on a plant? Could you be able to remember some of these functions? Can you write for me the function of the flowers on your paper there? I'm giving you 5 seconds. Can you write for me the function of the roots? Only one of them. What about for the stem? Write for me the function of the stem. Good children. Fine. Let's check with mine here and you see. The first word is terminal bud. Terminal bud. As you can see, the word terminal comes from the word terminate, which means that's going to be the end of something. So this one helps in increasing the height of a plant. So how the plant grows, to what extent does it grow, is going to be determined by the terminal bud. Then you have the second bud we call the auxiliary bud. Auxiliary bud, I told it comes from the word axil. So this bud, which is between the leaf and the stem, is what we call the auxiliary bud. And what does it grow into? It grows into the branch and the flower. So any new branch you see on the plant or the flower, it comes from the auxiliary what? Bud. Then you have the flower itself. What does it do? Now these flowers help in reproduction. So in a flower you are going to find things like the seeds, which later grow into a new plant. Then we have got the nodes. So the node is the point on the stem where the leaf grows from. That point on the stem where the leaf grows from is what we call the node. Then we have the stem. Now the stem has got several functions, as we shall see later on. But one of them is to hold the plant upright. Other functions can be the stem helps in transportation of water to different parts of the plant. The stem also helps in spacing the leaves and the branches so that they can receive enough sunlight and so on. And by the way, some stems can also store food, as we shall see later on. Then we have got the leaf here. The leaf here has got several functions, but the main function of the leaf is to manufacture food for the plant, or to make food for the plant. We shall look at that process called photosynthesis. The leaf also helps in transpiration and also helps in respiration. And some leaves even store food for the plant. Then we have our roots. They also have several functions. One of them is to suck water and mineral salts. The roots also hold the plant firmly in the soil. And some roots also store food. So children, I hope you have seen the function of the parts of the flowering plants. So you must be able to recall them and write them properly. Probably we can have a look at the few pictures here and you see. You can see here the roots strongly hold the plant in the soil. We shall look at these roots. You can see these roots are very strong. This one here. And the other one, as you can see, it's holding the plant firmly in the soil. Then we have got the roots absorbing water and mineral salts. As you can have a look at the picture here. The dots you are seeing there represent the water being absorbed from the soil by the roots going up to different parts of the plants, and that's, we shall look at that process we shall be calling osmosis. If you pick there, you see the dots how they are moving, the water is being absorbed. You can probably go back and have a look at that. Look at my dots how they are moving. Water is going to be absorbed by the roots, taken different parts of the plants, and able to grow well and so on. So the stem spaces the leaves so that they can get sunlight. Let's have a look at that. I told that the stem has got several functions, so it can spread those leaves and the branches so that they can receive adequate sunlight and able to make food for the plant. So a few pics here I've managed to get you to my children. Hope you have gotten them. So thank you for being good children. Stay well, stay safe, and take care of yourself.